Greeting. Thanks for joining us for today's group presentation. We are Group 1. This is our group members. Sorry for the wrong matric number. Today, we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, one that is deeply connected to the history of my homeland, China. That topic is anti-colonialism. We'll break this topic down into two main parts. To explore this topic, we'll look at it in two steps. The first step is to look at colonialism from a dialectical perspective. Then, we will use this perspective to explain the importance of anti-colonialism and how we can act upon it. We all know that colonialism is evil, but why is its role in human history so hard to ignore? As the philosopher Hegel once said, every stage of the world's history is necessary. But if colonialism is evil, in what sense could it have been necessary? And what impact did it have on the development of human civilization? Instead of answering that right away, let's pause and consider a question first. If colonialism had never happened, would today's global civilization look the same? Whether we like it or not, the answer is no. Colonialism played a major role in shaping the structure of the modern world. We're going to explore this topic through three key perspectives: transportation, language, and legal systems. In terms of transportation, colonial powers built railways, ports, and roads to facilitate the extraction of resources and the movement of goods for export. While these infrastructures were created primarily to serve colonial interests, such as moving raw materials to European markets, they unintentionally laid the groundwork for future economic development in many former colonies, providing connectivity, regional trade routes, and the basic logistics networks that some countries still rely on today. When it comes to language, colonial powers often imposed their own on the territories they ruled. English, especially through British colonization and later the global influence of the US, became widely used across Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean. Today, it remains an official or working language in many former colonies and is the most common second language worldwide. While this helps global communication, it has also led to the decline of indigenous languages and the erosion of local cultural identities. Regarding legal systems, colonial governments introduced Western legal frameworks that continue to shape many post-colonial nations today. These systems helped establish structures for governance, legal order, and property rights, and many countries still rely on them as the foundation of their modern legal institutions. In short, colonialism introduced systems that still support governance, communication, and infrastructure today. However, despite the progress it brought, colonialism was driven by evil intentions, and the pain and suffering it caused must never be forgotten. Under King Leopold II, the Congo Free State endured one of the most brutal colonial regimes in history. Millions were forced into harsh labor for rubber, and those who failed quotas often had their hands cut off. Over 10 million people died from starvation, forced labor, disease, and violence. This was more than exploitation. It was a system of terror. Another victim was India. Under British rule, India faced several severe famines, made worse by colonial policies. In 1943, millions died in Bengal while grain was shipped to support Britain's war. British rule also destroyed local industries, reducing India to a supplier of raw materials. The result was lasting poverty and widespread suffering. The last example is my homeland, China. It was never fully colonized, but Western powers and Japan imposed a semi-colonial system through war and unequal treaties. After the Opium Wars, foreign powers seized ports and forced open markets, even for opium. This brought economic loss, national humiliation, and long-term instability. Colonialism in China wasn't full occupation, it was domination through force and control. Considering the suffering and the progress it brought, we know colonialism promoted a distorted and unequal form of modernization. It should not be romanticized, but its catalytic role in shaping the modern world cannot be denied. And entering the post-colonial era does not mean true freedom has been achieved. Nowadays, many former colonies, though independent, still face economic dependence and Western influence. In parts of Africa, raw materials are exported cheaply, while finished goods are imported at high prices. Key industries often remain under foreign control. And race, religion, and language divisions created during colonial times still affect how countries see themselves today. Let us take Nigeria for example. Under British rule, different ethnic and religious groups were forced into one colony, even though they had very little in common. After independence, these divisions, especially between the Muslim North and Christian South, have continued to cause political tension, violence, and make it hard for the country to build a strong, united identity. Last, the idea that colonialism is over is actually misleading. Its influence is still very much around today. Let's take India for example. Even though India became independent in 1947, a lot of its systems still follow what the British left behind. The legal system, government structure, and even the way schools and universities work are heavily influenced by colonial rule. English is still the main language used in politics, business, and higher education, which shows how colonial influence didn't disappear, it just changed form. Now that we've seen how colonialism still affects the present, let's talk about why decolonization is still necessary. Decolonization isn't just about getting rid of foreign rule, it's about dealing with the deeper effects that colonialism left behind and that are still shaping our world today. A lot of former colonies are still struggling with things like economic dependence, loss of culture, and confusion about identity, all of which come from systems built during colonial times. Real decolonization means taking back our languages, our knowledge, our land, and most importantly, our right to define who we are. It's about restoring dignity, fixing historical injustices, and giving people the power to decide their own future, not just politically, but in how they think, how they live, and how their institutions work. Now that we understand why decolonization is still needed, the next question is, how do we actually approach it? Well, decolonization isn't just something that happened in the past, it's an ongoing journey. It takes honest reflection, cultural revival, and real changes to the systems around us. First, we need to acknowledge the past, recognize the harm caused by colonialism without glorifying it. Second, we should restore what was erased, bring back indigenous languages, cultures, and ways of thinking. Third, we must rethink global systems. Many still favor former colonial powers, especially in economics and politics. And throughout all of this, we need to decolonize the mind, question the idea that Western ways are superior, and respect diverse worldviews. In the end, decolonization is a shared responsibility. It's not just for formerly colonized countries, it's a global effort toward fairness and equality.